Let's get one thing straight. We're not here to steal wives or break vows. We're here to understand attraction, power, and the undeniable pull of presence. Because sometimes, without even trying, your energy commands attention. And yes, even married women start noticing. Not because you're chasing them, but because you've mastered yourself. So what are these three things? A new cologne? Secret pickup lines? Nope. This isn't about tricks. It's about posture, presence, and the kind of masculine calm that makes people wonder, who is he? And why do I feel drawn to him? Stoic men don't impress. They impose, silently. You don't need to talk much when your energy speaks louder than most men's words ever will. Quick question before we begin. Have you ever had someone in a relationship start chasing you, even though you never made a move? Drop it in the comments. Don't name names. We're not here to ruin marriages, but let's be honest. Sometimes presence alone flips the script. And if you value this kind of content, raw, direct, and rooted in power, type masculine stoic mind in the comments to let the algorithm know you're not here for dating games. You're here to build presence, power, and unshakable masculine discipline. Let's break the patterns. Let's set a new standard. You walk into a room, not scanning, not chasing, not adjusting your posture every 5 seconds to appear alpha. You're simply there, grounded, present, not desperate for approval, not begging for validation. And guess what? That silence, that calm detachment, hits harder than any corny pickup line. Because while most men orbit women like moths around a flame, you're the flame that doesn't move. And she notices. Married women, especially those stuck in comfort, routine, or emotional neglect, aren't drawn to chaos. They're drawn to contrast. The moment a man walks in and doesn't immediately place them at the center of attention, it creates discomfort and curiosity. Why isn't he looking at me? Does he not find me attractive? What's going on in his head? Congratulations. You've already flipped the power dynamic without saying a word. Detachment doesn't mean disinterest, it means mastery. You're not cold, you're contained, stoic, and that kind of internal strength is rare. It makes people lean in, ask questions, want to understand you. Because when you're not emotionally leaking all over the place, not proving, explaining, oversharing, you become a mystery in a world obsessed with instant access. And mystery, gentlemen, is attraction's gasoline. Here's what most men don't understand. Attraction isn't about what you give. It's about what you withhold. Not in a manipulative way, but in a controlled, deliberate way. When you're not immediately impressed by her, when you're not following her with your eyes like every other guy, she feels something new, resistance, and that resistance is power. It makes her ask the one question that changes everything. Who is this man, and why doesn't he need me? From a stoic lens, your value doesn't come from external reaction. It comes from internal regulation. You know your worth. You don't need to perform. You're not withholding attention out of bitterness. You're simply not giving it away freely. And in a world where most men are emotionally on sale, a man with boundaries becomes priceless. This doesn't mean you act superior or play games. In fact, you're probably the calmest man in the room. You listen more than you speak. You observe more than you react. And that quiet presence? It's the loudest thing she's heard in years. Because while her husband might talk over her or ignore her, you, without effort, become the one person who doesn't seek her, and yet somehow owns her attention. So let's hear it in the comments. Have you ever been completely detached, not chasing, not flirting, and still had someone start pursuing you hard? What did you do, and how did it feel to realize you didn't even try? Most men think they need clever lines, loud laughs, or flashy confidence to get a woman's attention, especially if she's married. But here's the Stoic truth. What you don't say often speaks louder than what you do. In a room full of noise, the man who doesn't speak unnecessarily becomes a signal, a disruption, a challenge. And for a woman trapped in predictable routines and emotionally stale relationships, that's silence. It's electric. See, silence makes her fill in the blanks. Who is this man? Why isn't he trying to impress anyone? Is he powerful? Is he dangerous? Is he indifferent? She doesn't know. And because she doesn't know, her mind starts building a story, and you become the main character. Curiosity isn't just interest. It's the beginning of pursuit. And when you live with calm, detached silence, she feels something she hasn't felt in a long time, the thrill of the unknown. Now, this isn't the silence of awkwardness. It's the silence of command, the kind that says, I don't need to be seen, I'm already watching. You don't rush to fill the air. You don't overshare. You sit in your presence like a mountain sits in weather, unbothered. And when she talks to you, she realizes quickly, this isn't small talk. This is stillness. And stillness draws people in more than any clever joke ever could. Women, married or not, are masters of social decoding. They can smell neediness like smoke. So when a man enters the room with zero social hunger, with no emotional leak, no desire to please or perform, that contrast pulls at something primal. She may not even understand why she's thinking about you later, why your brief eye contact stayed in her mind, why your silence was louder than every man trying to make her laugh. But she feels it. The average man tries to be loud to matter. The Stoic man, he lets absence do the talking. She walks away wondering what you think, if she impressed you, if you noticed her at all. And it's in that mental vacuum, that space you created by not rushing in, that attraction starts to grow. She wants to close the gap. She wants to break the silence. She wants to earn your attention. And that's the shift. You're not chasing, you're being chased. Not because of manipulation, but because your energy says, I don't need anything from you. And that, to a woman who's constantly surrounded by men trying to take something, validation, intimacy, approval, is refreshing. You become a man of value simply because you don't ask for any. Let's hear it in the comments. Have you ever said almost nothing and still become the most noticed man in the room? How did people respond to your silence? And did you realize that mystery, not noise, is what builds desire? In a world where most men fold under pressure, follow impulse, and chase whatever sparkles for more than 3 seconds, the disciplined man stands out like a lion among house cats. He doesn't react. He responds. He doesn't chase, he chooses. And to a woman, especially one who's used to emotionally chaotic men, that kind of inner restraint is not just rare, it's deeply attractive. Why? Because what can't be controlled becomes what she craves. Discipline is more than hitting the gym and drinking black coffee. It's about emotional self-command. It's saying no when most would say please. It's walking away from attention you don't need. It's showing up with consistency, not performance. And this kind of man, the one who doesn't jump, react, or bend just to make her smile, becomes a challenge. Not because he plays games, but because he doesn't need to. Here's what most people miss. Women don't want to control you. They want to feel your control over yourself, over your urges, over your presence. That doesn't mean being cold or robotic. It means that when temptation shows up, when things get flirty, messy, intense, you remain grounded, present, unshaken. And that unshakable energy, that's what flips the switch in her mind from he's interesting to I need to get closer to that. A married woman, especially one who's emotionally starved, doesn't just want another man, she wants to feel something she hasn't felt in years. Respect for a man who respects himself more than he desires her. That discipline becomes the very reason she starts to desire you. Not because you gave her attention, but because you didn't. You withheld your power, and in doing so, you made it valuable. Discipline turns you from accessible to selective, and that transition is what creates real pursuit. When she realizes she can't lure you in with flirtation, when you don't crumble at her compliments, when you stay calm even when she tests the waters, she starts to wonder if she's even worthy of your attention. That's when the roles reverse. That's when desire is born out of your restraint. Stoicism teaches exactly this. Master yourself, and the world will feel your weight. You don't have to demand respect, you simply embody it. Your lack of neediness is louder than any pickup line. Your self-discipline is more seductive than any compliment. And the moment she feels that power, she doesn't walk away. She circles closer. Now it's your turn. Have you ever had someone become more attracted to you the moment you held back? Emotionally, physically, or verbally? Drop it in the comments. Because in a world of impulse, discipline is the ultimate seduction. Let's be real. Most men get emotionally baited without even knowing it. A sharp tone, a delayed text, a cold shoulder, a sudden mood swing. And boom, they're spiraling, explaining, apologizing, chasing. But when you're a stoic man, you don't respond to every emotional tremor like it's an earthquake. You stay still, solid, unmoved, and that infuriating calm becomes the one thing she can't ignore. Here's the paradox. The more emotionally reactive you are, the safer she feels to disregard you. But the more emotionally composed you are, the more she feels drawn to you. Why? Because your emotional control is a signal that says, I've mastered my world, I don't fear chaos, I don't participate in drama, I watch, I decide, I lead. And when you can't be pulled into her storms, she starts to orbit your calm. This isn't about being cold. It's about being calculated, controlled, grounded in purpose. Married women, especially those dealing with emotionally erratic men, are used to being the thermostat. They push, and he reacts. They withdraw, and he chases. But when she pushes you, and you don't move, that's not rejection. It's power, and it sets off alarms in her mind. Why isn't he affected? Why do I want his reaction so badly? You've now become contrast. She's chaos, you're calm, she's unpredictability, you're precision, and that contrast doesn't just make you attractive, it makes you addictive because emotional control is strength, and strength, real, silent, internal strength, makes women rethink everything they thought they knew about dominance and desire. When you're emotionally disciplined, she realizes something dangerous. She can't control you. And what she can't control, she starts to chase. Not because she wants to dominate it, but because deep down, she wants to trust something stronger than herself. And if you can't be manipulated, you just became the most stable energy in her chaotic emotional world. From a Stoic perspective, this is exactly the goal. To be the unmoved mover, the center of gravity in every interaction. You don't suppress emotions, you govern them. You don't fake stillness, you embody it. And the moment she feels that difference, she stops testing you and starts wanting you. Badly. So let's hear it from the calm ones. Have you ever stayed composed while she tried everything to trigger you, and noticed her attraction rise instead of fall? Drop your experience in the comments, because in the end, the man who rules himself rules the room. Most men think attraction starts with words. A clever line, a well-timed joke, a compliment wrapped in fake confidence. But here's the Stoic truth. Flirting is not something you do, it's something you are. It's in how you walk, how you enter a room, how you make eye contact without apology. The disciplined man doesn't flirt to attract. He exists, and attraction takes care of itself. You're not trying to impress, you're not performing. You're not following her around the room like a lost puppy hoping she notices your cologne. You're in your own space, your own rhythm. And that grounded energy, the calm, confident awareness of a man who doesn't need attention, that's what flirts for you. She'll feel it before you speak. And by the time you do speak, she's already interested. Because when your presence is powerful, your words become optional. You walk by and she straightens up. You make brief eye contact and she wonders about your story. You're not trying to charm her soon, but somehow she's thinking about you. That's the power of still presence. It's not loud, it's not performative, but it lingers. The married woman especially so, the one who hasn't felt deeply seen or magnetically pulled in years, feels that shift immediately. Her husband might talk constantly but say nothing. Meanwhile, you say little but carry weight, and weight is what she remembers. You didn't flatter her, you didn't chase her, you simply existed with so much focus and silence that she started imagining what it would feel like to be noticed by you. Flirting for the Stoic man is not a tactic, it's a consequence. It's what happens when you live in control, when you radiate inner certainty, when you're not fazed by external noise. You don't drop pickup lines, you drop presence. And in a world where everyone's shouting to be seen, your quiet confidence speaks volumes. She'll remember how she felt around you, safe, curious, challenged. Not because you tried to create that feeling, but because you were just unbothered. That's the real seduction, the man who walks in without intention but leaves her wondering what just happened. So share it in the comments. Have you ever had someone respond to your energy without a single word exchanged? How did it feel to realize you were already flirting by doing absolutely nothing? Neediness kills respect every single time, and respect once gone takes desire with it. That's why the man who doesn't need her, not emotionally, not sexually, not socially, becomes the man she starts to want the most, not because he's cold, but because he's full. He doesn't orbit her, he doesn't beg for her time, he doesn't chase her attention like a reward. He is whole, with or without her. Married women, especially those used to men who place them on pedestals, are experts at sniffing out dependency. And when they don't smell it on you, that's when everything changes. Suddenly, you're the one she respects, the one she can't manipulate, the one she can't bend with a pout or break with silence. You become the standard, not the servant. This kind of man doesn't give off "I don't care" energy. He gives off "I'll be fine either way" energy. It's not arrogance, it's abundance. He's not aloof, he's aligned. He knows who he is, what he wants, and what he'll walk away from without looking back. And that scares people used to control, but it also draws them in, because that kind of emotional independence is magnetic. She begins to see you as rare, not because of what you say, but because of what you won't settle for. You don't let charm distract you. You don't let beauty override behavior. You don't let her presence dictate your value, and once she realizes you're not like the others, that you don't need her validation to breathe, she does something she didn't expect. She starts chasing yours. This is how longing is born, through absence, through resistance, through quiet, immovable confidence. You didn't try to impress her. You didn't need her to choose you. And that very detachment made her wonder, what would it take to be chosen by him? That's when respect becomes curiosity. Curiosity becomes desire, and desire becomes pursuit. Stoicism isn't about being emotionless, it's about being self-sourced. When your mood isn't dependent on her tone, her attention, or her approval, you become a fortress. A man like that doesn't ask for love. He attracts it from people who recognize strength when they feel it. Let's talk below. Have you ever had someone start chasing you once you clearly stopped needing them, or never needed them in the first place? What happened when they realized you weren't seeking anything? And that made you everything. So, now you know. These three things aren't tricks, they're not hacks, and they're definitely not manipulation. They are the byproducts of mastering yourself. When you stop chasing attention, when you own your presence, when your discipline shapes your identity, the world notices. And yes, even women in relationships start to feel the pull, not because you tried to impress them, but because you didn't need them. The truth is, a man who is emotionally self-sufficient is a rare force. He doesn't beg. He doesn't perform. He moves with purpose and chooses from clarity. And that kind of man, the one who doesn't ask for anything, becomes the one who gets everything, not by demand, but by design. In a sea of chaos, he is the calm. In a crowd of followers, he is the line that doesn't bend. And for many women, that's the first man they've truly respected in years. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone pursue you simply because you held your ground, said less, and stood firm? Drop your experience below. And if this message hit home, type masculine stoic mind in the comments to let the world know you're not here to play games. You're here to master yourself and let attraction follow your stillness. And remember this, you don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to dominate to lead. You simply need to know who you are, and never hand that over for approval. Stand still, and the world will move around you.